power. Yeah, light up the sky in the night. We came, we ready to fight. Yeah, light up the towers. We got the power. We coming out like King Kong Kong. Think we gon' stop it, you dead wrong. We going stronger, we going longer. This is the reckoning up on you. Don't have to wait too much longer. We taking over the night. Who got the power? We got
You are looking at sunny Los Angeles, site of the 2022 Home Run Derby. The MLB All-Star break is in full swing. Speaking of full swing, MLB's best take aim at the Hollywood sign. It is the 2022 Home Run Derby on ESPN and the ESPN app. I'm Phil Murphy alongside Joon Lee in our Bristol studios. They do call Bristol the Los Angeles of Connecticut. But in Los Angeles proper, Dodger Stadium, Clinton Yates, he got the lucky end of the assignment. Clinton, I saw you posting on social media earlier, all the people on the field at Dodger Stadium. What is the vibe like as this Home Run Derby approaches?
The vibe is immaculate. There are human beings everywhere. A lot of baseball celebration in general in Los Angeles because it's been a long time since this came to to LA. And I'm just thinking about all the people I've seen who are having fun with their little league teams and all that. It's a great time.
All right, so Joon and I are not amongst the 50, 60,000 or so that will be able to take part in that and enjoy it like you will on site. So, Joon, for you, what is the anticipation like for this Home Run Derby in this field?
I mean, this is the third-ish year of this Derby format after, 2019, I think, was one of the greatest Derbies ever between seeing Pete Alonso and Vladdy Jr. go off in the way that they did. Last year, I think, was a little bit of a step back in terms of the excitement. So I'm really excited to see this time around how this Derby format sticks because, just like the dunk contest, I think people love to complain about the Home Run Derby format. So I'm really curious to see whether or not it actually works again this year or if it's another step back from what it was last year.
Well, since the pivot, it has produced some very memorable moments. Let's take a look at the bracket. The knockout stage, as it were, seeding determined by each player's home run totals from the first half. So Kyle Schwarber, number one. Pete Alonso, two-time defending champ. Pete, repeat, going for the three-peat, is the 2 seed. We'll get to him in a second, but let's start with 1v8. Schwarber versus the senior representative, I believe the oldest player in Home Run Derby field history, Albert Pujols. Obvious question first. What is your feeling, Joon, I'll start with you, about Pujols even being in this Derby field?
I absolutely love it. I think this is kind of tying into what MLB has done with kind of selecting a couple guys onto the All-Star team that are kind of meant to be more celebratory picks. Having Albert Pujols in this Derby and what many people think is going to be his last year, I think it's just absolutely really exciting just because there's a little bit of the nostalgia factor. As all baseball fans know, there's nothing more nostalgic than baseball fans. And so seeing Albert Pujols in this contest is something that I just love seeing a guy like him and a guy like Julio Rodriguez in the same field, competing for the same, trophy, I think is really, really good and exciting for the sport in order to kind of tying together the present, the future, and the past greatness of a guy like Albert Pujols in a format like this. That's one of the biggest platforms that baseball has all year. I think it's probably the most exciting event that casuals fans look forward to in regards to baseball, now more so than the All-Star game itself.
And affirming my stat on screen, first player 40 or older, most home runs ever for somebody entering a Home Run Derby. He's going to have to get quite hot in the second half to get to 700. But Clinton, he spent some time with the Dodgers, 6 home runs on the year, obviously well into his career twilight. Having been there, what do you think the inclusion of Pujols means to this Home Run Derby competition?
I think it's a good thing for Southern California baseball overall. Listen, Albert Pujols is, bottom line, one of the top 10, if not one of the biggest household names we have in baseball. For him to be here in his last season, I think just makes sense overall to wrap things up from a career standpoint. But I'll tell you this, it's hot out here. Albert Pujols is not a young man. Endurance is going to be a factor in this first round in terms of getting through it plainly from a swing standpoint. Going up against Schwarber, who's a guy who knocks it out with a relative amount of ease. Unfortunately, I think Pujols is going out in the first round in this situation, as good as it is to see him out here mingling with all his teammates and all the people that he's been, shown well and shown love to in Major League Baseball throughout the course of his career.
All right, so Clinton's not buying into the old man's strength and all that experience, pulling weeds out of the garden and in the hot sun. Joon, if you're talking Pujols v. Schwarber, what are the odds here of an upset in the first round?
I think Kyle Schwarber, more so than being made for like traditional baseball, he was born for the home run derby. This man, his swing is built for it. His body is built for it. His entire game is built for a contest like this. I'm stoked to see Kyle Schwarber in the home run derby. I think he's got a chance to knock a couple out of Dodger Stadium tonight, just given the way that he elevates baseballs, the way that he's been hitting this year. He's got 29 home runs, leads all of the National League, second in Major League Baseball as a whole. This man was built for this contest. I think he's going to have a really, really good shot of beating Pete Alonso's streak tonight.
And Ernesto Jerez, who does the terrific job on the broadcast for ESPN Deportes, he voiced a sports science on what it would take to hit the ball out of Dodger Stadium. 468 feet, depending on where you go, would do it. Clinton, you mentioned that you think Schwarber's going to bounce Pujols in the first round. I think that is the conventional wisdom as we look at most home runs in a single derby. Schwarber there, 2018, 55, and you see Pete Alonso a couple times ahead of him. Pete Alonso's in this field. Overall, where do you handicap Schwarber's odds to take this competition overall, assuming he gets past Pujols in the first round?
I think they're pretty high. The only issue he's got is he's going to have to run into somebody later who will get along in the bracket. But Joon is exactly right. Kyle Schwarber is made for this. If I had to pick one guy off the top of my head who I thought had a swing who could get it out, especially from the left side, Schwarber's that guy. He's a fun-loving kind of dude. He likes hitting the ball out of the park in terms of how he approaches things from the plate. I think he's got a pretty good chance to get to the finals, except for the man of the hour on discussion, Juan Soto.
Yeah, we'll get to Juan Soto in a second, but I want to start with what could well be the sexiest first-round matchup, 2v7. And again, this seeding is based on home run totals from this year, so perhaps a few more games out of Ronald Acuna, and he would be higher than a 7 seed. We have Pete Alonso trying to become the first guy to three-peat in the Derby and match Ken Griffey's overall record, Ken Griffey Jr. that is, with 3 home run Derby titles against Ronald Acuna Jr. Clinton, what do you make of this first-round pairing?
Very sexy matchup, as you mentioned. Pete Alonso is a nice guy who takes this seriously. He's not just 1-2 by happenstance. This is his thing. However, Acuna's got something to prove, in my opinion. The Braves team won that thing last year after he was injured, figured out how to, get him back to that lineup, and he has been every bit as thrilling as he was before the injury. Another guy with the swing that lends itself to this competition in general. He really knows how to lift it and get it out from a launch angle standpoint. I would not be surprised if he bested the two-time champion Pete Alonso in the first round.
Clinton makes the case for Ronald Acuna Jr., but I do think that you cannot doubt the experience of Pete Alonso in this contest. There was a great story in ESPN.com today about the strategy that Pete Alonso has developed over the course of the last 2 derbies, knowing when to take timeouts, knowing how to pace himself, knowing when to go off and hit a little bit more, try a little bit more to hit a couple more homers versus holding back in certain places. I think Pete Alonso, he's also a guy alongside Kyle Schwarber who's kind of made for this derby. He's kind of the right-handed Kyle Schwarber in just the way that he approaches the game at the plate. I love Ronald Acuna Jr. He's one of my favorite players to watch, but Pete's won this 2 times for a reason.
And that 440-foot stat we showed earlier, Ronald Acuna Jr., very pertinent. These guys get the bonus for multiple 440-foot home runs. The issue here for me, and Joon, I'll start with you to see how applicable this might be. I don't think anybody's getting 10 home runs and the other guy can hit 11 and make a short day. Whoever goes first is going to put up a big number, assuming it's Acuna, and then Alonso's going to have to exhaust a little bit, probably to eclipse that. You see Pete, he leads all the baseball in RBI. He's hit some bombs this year, 447 feet. How much do you think that head-to-head is going to take out of these guys for their longevity in this derby, Joon?
Well, a question I have for both of you guys to turn it back around is, would you rather hit first in this derby or would you rather hit second?
On a hot day, second.
Yeah, because I think that it kind of gives you a sense of what you need to do in order to get to the next round versus being in the first round, you're kind of expending your energy in terms of, just wanting to set the tone, wanting to do well. I would personally also want to hit second, but I'm curious what Clinton has to say on this as well.
Clinton?
Yeah, well, you don't have any built-in pressure if you go first. You're only at the mercy of your own skill level. That's why I would go first. If you're going second, you know what number you have in your head, so you're already thinking about that long before you get into any of your swings. I would absolutely go first and put my pressure on the opponent.
All right, well, the winner of Alonso v. Acuna gets the winner of Corey Seager and Julio Rodriguez. Compelling matchup here. J-Rod has been a revelation in Seattle as they have caught fire before the break. 14 wins on the trot for the Mariners. He had a terrific catch, double off the wall, but his goal is going to be hitting it over the wall against a guy, Clinton, in Corey Seager, who played a good amount of time, 7 years, I believe, in this ballpark. How much do you think home field advantage matters when it is a pretty much a cookie-cutter field, or am I understating things? Is there something to be said about Seager knowing this ballpark?
I think that's a reasonable thing to say is an issue, because it's not an issue because it's not just knowing the ballpark, it's comfortable playing here because you've played here a lot. You know, J-Rod's a young guy. This is a relatively big stage to be on for a player like him. And even though he's been scintillating in Seattle, I mean, I got to go with Corey Seager. There's no way around that. I've seen this guy hit bombs out of this building with my own eyeballs too much to not pick him in this situation. I don't care if he plays for the Rangers these days. Corey Seager knows Dodger Stadium, and everybody here knows that as well.
See, home field advantage a thing in a derby?
I don't really know about that. I mean, like, yes, he's been in big moments here, but it's a home run derby. It's not like a playoff situation. I think it's a little bit different. Julio Rodriguez, for me, is my sleeper of the night. You know, obviously Juan Soto is Juan Soto, but Julio Rodriguez has obviously been fantastic. You know, one of the leading Rookie of the Year candidates so far this year. A guy who could talk himself. You could talk about in potentially the MVP candidate conversation if the Mariners keep going this way. I mean, this guy came into the year with an immense amount of pressure on him as one of the most hyped prospects in a while, and he's not only lived up to the expectation, he surpassed them in a way that I think is hard to match since maybe Mike Trout came up and he was the top guy. We can talk about how this is a big stage, but Julio Rodriguez has been playing this entire season with magnifying glass on him because of his hyped up prospect stats, the fact that people really, really expected him a lot and expected him to be a guy that took this Mariners team from a borderline playoff team, a team that just missed the playoffs last year, to a team that could really make some waves come October this year. And he has made the difference, at least so far this season. And so I don't think that a home field advantage, the pressure is going to matter as much, even though Corey Seager obviously has the playoff experience, the experience in Dodger Stadium.
Clinton, I want your thoughts on that quickly. What can this stage, this national stage, do for a guy like a Julio Rodriguez, who up until a couple weeks ago was kind of playing in a quiet baseball scene in Seattle before they thrust themselves into wild card contention?
I think it's big for them. I think it's big for the Mariners in general, who've had a young crop of guys that have come up and really tried to do a couple things. But listen, overall, I'm really glad that this is here this year. I think there's something about the Los Angeles feel that gives it sort of a bigger sense. Last year we were in Denver, great baseball town, but it's just not the same as being in LA. So I think any player that's in this gets a little different sort of a social boost, a Q rating boost for being in this particular All-Star game than they did back there. And it's been a blast. There's been all sorts of fun stuff around it. So I think the baseball made the right decision in coming back to LA after it got canceled here in 2020.
Yeah, and again, a sneaky good first-round matchup there. We saw Pete Alonso take out Carlos Santana in Cleveland in 2019 en route to him winning the title. Seager, a little bit of a home field advantage, though, not representing the Dodgers. Final first-round pairing, and Clinton, you teased it. The man of $440 million plus, apparently, Juan Soto against Jose Ramirez. Seems like the spotlight's on Soto. Seems like this would be the Hollywood script. What has been the vibe with him around this All-Star weekend, Clinton, with a lot of off-the-field storylines being ever present with a potential trade and what would be a record-breaking contract extension?
Well, now that the Nationals have solidified themselves as a feeder franchise, letting go of all sorts of guys in the league who are showing up all over the place and mashing out, we can actually speculate about where Soto is going to go. I was hosting radio today locally in LA, and we didn't talk about it much, but I'll tell you, everybody wants this guy. So if you think about the Padres, you think about the Giants, you think about the Dodgers, most people believe he's going to end up somewhere in California. As for this matchup, people forget what happened last year. He was pitted against Shohei Ohtani in Denver. He knocked out Ohtani in the first round. Half the stadium left because they were there to watch Ohtani, and he was the one who ended up going out as much as he did. So, Soto, this is a huge space for him. You got the Nationals and the Dodgers sort of chirping at each other on Twitter about who he's talking to, Trey Turner, his old friends and stuff. I cannot wait to see this guy at the plate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so excited to see Soto tonight because this is a guy who every time he's been in the spotlight has stepped up his performance even further. In the playoffs, it doesn't matter. And, as we lead up to, with all of the trade speculation around him, the fact that he's a guy who plausibly could be the first $500 million player in MLB history. This is a guy, I think, who's going to continue to live up to that moment, live up to any, hype, speculation, anything around him. I think that he's going to be a guy who meets the moment tonight and is, going to hit some bombs. And I'm really, really excited just to see what happens with him, because this is a game-changing player. This is a guy who's, you look at the career stats so far, there's few guys could be named alongside Ted Williams in the way that Juan Soto has. I'm really, really excited, not just about Juan Soto in this present moment, but also what we're going to see from him as we move forward and whether or not he gets traded this year.
Career on-base percentage through all of Major League history, players age 23 or younger. It is Soto number 2, Ted Williams, the aforementioned number 1. Okay, field of 8. We've previewed each of the first-round matchups. Guys, I want a winner. Clinton, who do you have taking down Home Run Derby 2022?
I have Juan Soto, and I'm just going to make a quick point about what Joon was saying. As much as everybody in LA wants him to come to the Dodgers, I honestly don't necessarily think it would be great for Major League Baseball for him to come to this team and be a part of another squad with another murderer's row. That guy is a singular enough talent from a personality and a baseball standpoint to carry an entire team, and I think that that's something that not anybody else has to care about, but I think about as a fan overall. That said, I also think that this moment is the one he was built for. Juan Soto, look, the Nationals, you don't want to keep guys who are generational talents. You can let them come somewhere else and they'll show up and show out, and I think that's what Soto does today.
Clinton, who's your pick?
I think tonight's moment is Julio Rodriguez's moment to introduce himself to a national audience. I think he's a little bit of a sleeper pick. He's got the raw power. He's got the personality. He's got the smile. I think that this is a night where Julio Rodriguez is able to show that not only has he lived up to the top prospect type and that he's going to be a really, really good player for a long time to come, but he's going to be an entertaining one at that as well.
All right, I'm rocking the Pete Alonso shirt. I had my tinfoil cap on during the draft last night. Mets have a terrific prospect at catcher. They draft Kevin Parada. I'm thinking, okay, how do they work that into a trade package to get Juan Soto? Unabashed Mets fan, I am betting Juan Soto at plus 460. I think it is his moment, and I think Pete Alonso, as terrific as he has been the last 2 years, I think that first-round pairing against Ronald Acuna takes a little steam out of him, and a Soto-Alonso final round would be fit for Hollywood. So we have 2 picks for Soto, 1 for Julio Rodriguez, and either way, that means a Home Run Derby champ, age 23 or younger, a nice, dynamic young player. Pete Alonso wants no part of that. The polar bear solar power in LA is, I think he meets Chris Berman there. Boomer making an appearance at Dodger Stadium.
Back.
Guys, it's time to go snag, grab, or stab as Alonso tries to go back to back to back. Home Run Derby edition of this. Let's go to 2011. Robinson Cano against Adrian Gonzalez was the final in 2011. The Red Sox v. Yankees there. Last out of the first round, though, at Chase Field. Kid travels quite a distance to make the grab. Joon, you first. Snag, grab, or stab?
I think that's a snag. It's one where he kind of has to dive in that way, and he snags it out of the air.
Clinton?
A lot of people don't think that stabs can happen on the outfield, but if you're running full tilt and you lay out like that, that's a diving stab to me.
Yeah, Clinton and I have philosophical differences here. I have to yield because it's your game, but I'm gonna agree with Joon for what it's worth. I'm gonna say snag as well for the exact same rationale as my good friend to my left. Let's continue with the 2011 Derby still at Chase Field. Adrian Gonzalez made it all the way to the final. This one made it to the pool.
Woo!
And we got a leap into the pool. Clinton, snag, grab, or stab?
That is a grab and a half. What a win out of him.
Keeping the
I love
beer
every
above
single
water.
part about this. I completely forgot about this. This should be a separate event on its own. Dudes catching home run balls flying into the pool. A+.
Yeah, that's a grab. I'm right there with Clinton. Like, that's one of those, he's not snagging out there. He's not stabbing. He's grabbing it while jumping into the pool.
And again, keeping what I imagine is a adequately priced beer above water as well. I'm going to go grab, and we're going to go to what is our penultimate snag, grab, or stab, 2016 Derby quarterfinals. Carlos Gonzalez hits a line drive to right. Kid makes the catch while trucking another kid. Clinton, this is a rarity. Snag, grab, or stab on the hit stick.
This is a snag in traffic. Look at that. That's a major collision out there. Come on, y'all. Keep your head up. Call for the ball. Me. We got to get some coaches out there if kids are going to be knocking each other's heads off trying to catch homers. That's not good.
That's a stab for me. I think the way that he kind of pokes that in the air to grab it, that looks like a stab to me.
I'm going to agree with Clinton on this. I have it as a snag, and again, maybe a future linebacker there as well. We do have a bonus play from last year's Derby, not quite a snag, a grab, or stab, because by rule, Clinton's rules, catch has to be made. Wasn't made here, but Matt Olson does hit one out. A fan in the Derby trying to make the catch in Colorado, but is unsuccessful. Dive, flip, or tumble is producer Sid's game, June?
That's a tumble. I mean, like, I also remember this too because he didn't end up with the ball either.
No.
Like, you put yourself out there like that, you make that fall, and you don't even end up with the ball. Like, that's the worst case scenario.
Moonsaulting an usher, it seems, or another fan. I'm going to go flip. Clinton, what's your take? Dive, flip, or tumble?
Bro, if you look at that clip, you can see me standing right there because that happened right in front of us. I thought this guy was dead on the field in Colorado last year. That was a scary moment. Definitely a tumble. He almost lost a limb on that. I'm glad my man was safe. That was a crazy moment that day.
Hey, it's your favorite player's favorite player, Ken Griffey Jr. Again, we got Home Run Derby starting on ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN app, and ESPN Deportes in just under 10 minutes time. Premiering tonight after the Derby on ESPN and ESPN Plus as well, the latest documentary series from ESPN Films focusing on Derek Jeter's illustrious career. It's called The Captain. June and I have screened the first episode. It is terrific. Take a look at a preview before tonight's debut.
I get a message from our PR guy saying the boss wants to speak to you. I'm like, damn, I'm in trouble. He called me and named me captain.
We're very proud to introduce the 11th captain of the New York Yankees, Derek Jeter.
Well, I don't know why, he chose it. He just said that he thought that this was the time.
I remember George calling me, and he says, I'm going to name Derek captain. Something was happening between the two, and he wanted to fix it.
Well, obviously, it goes without saying how great of an honor it is for me to be here and be named the 11th captain in Yankee history.
I mean, I'm a Yankee historian, so, Lou Gehrig, Thurman Munson, Willow, Nettles, Guidry, Donnie. It's not a title thrown around too lightly.
Very few of us get that opportunity, being given that responsibility to help lead that team. It was just a real sense of pride being a part of a small group of great Yankee captains.
I took that responsibility seriously.
Derek Jeter, if they had named him captain 3 years ago, that would have been the right time.
There's nothing I would have done differently if I were not the captain. I tried to lead by example, and I tried to get to know my teammates. Just because you're in a position of power doesn't mean people are going to listen to you. They may hear you, but it doesn't mean they're going to listen to you and respect you. You got to take the time to get to know people that you're leading. I like to operate with people privately. Don't do it because everyone's watching you. You don't do it because cameras are on, but you do what you feel is right to help the team.
The Captain premieres tonight after the Home Run Derby on ESPN and ESPN Plus, with new episodes debuting Thursdays from here on out, July 21st to August 11th. Also tonight, catch June, myself, and Jeff Passan for the Captain After Show on the ESPN app and ESPN social channels, and we'll continue that every Thursday after each episode. Guys, quickly, Clinton, start with you. What are you most looking forward to for this Jeter documentary?
When all of these documentaries come out, the thing that I think about the most is all of the footage and all of the time spent between players, fans, and their families that we just don't see. The behind-the-scenes stuff is legitimately cool to me, and I think for somebody like Derek Jeter, who spent so much time in the spotlight but didn't actually talk that much, we're going to learn a lot about this human being. I mean, the idea of captains on baseball teams and the way that Jeter approached the game feels like a generation ago, quite frankly, when it wasn't that long ago that he stopped playing. And so I just feel that we're going to get an insight into an era of baseball that I don't think was misunderstood, but we didn't see that much of from Jeter outside of an on-the-field standpoint. This should be a fun one for hardcore baseball fans.
Jim, you talked to Jeter today.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that jumped out to me in talking about why, in my conversation with Derek Jeter today on ESPN's Instagram, was about how he wanted to bring fans into what it was like, because he knew that he set very firm boundaries with himself and the media, because he never wanted anything to be a distraction. He never wanted to be misconstrued. And this was an opportunity for him to kind of take control of his message and kind of show him on his terms, what it was like to be Derek Jeter, what it was like to be a biracial kid from Kalamazoo, Michigan, who struggled in the early stage of his career in baseball, and then became the captain of the Yankees and had this enormous spotlight on him. And seeing the emotional struggle that kind of goes alongside of that, because for such a long time, Jeter was kind of this stoic figure where he didn't seem like anything kind of let anything got to him. But I think that this documentary kind of really grounds him in a way that I think is a really insightful look into not just a baseball icon, but a generational sports icon as well.
And I've made this analogy with you before. It's like how the post-Patriot way Tom Brady let the wall down. Jeter did the same, at least through one episode in that doc. You are looking at 8-seed Albert Pujols, the most seasoned member of this home run derby field. 685 home runs for his career, just 6 this year. He's got quite an uphill task against Kyle Schwarber in the first round. But as we look at home run leaders this season, again, seeding in this derby is determined by how many home runs you hit. Kyle Schwarber leads all participants with 29, though he's 4 behind Aaron Judge, who's tied with Roger freaking Maris for the most homers by a Yankee before the All-Star break. Good time to bet on yourself, Mr. Judge, with that contract extension. Pete Alonso, 2-time home run derby champ, looking for the 3-peat, tied with Giancarlo Stanton and Mike Trout for regulation game home runs with 24. Speaking of regulation game home runs, guys, here are the most notable ones of the regular season. Clinton Jesus Sanchez at Coors Field going 496 feet into the upper deck.
Goodness gracious, that is a bomb. Wow,
Exit
I haven't seen a
velo-
ball hit up there before.
Exit velo of 114.7 miles per hour. Emphatic. We got more from Jesus Sanchez coming up. June's shortest home run, not counting inside the park home runs, of course, 318 feet by Christian Betancourt. This just 4 days ago, just eking out over that tiny little wall in left field.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always surprised when the shortest homer of the year isn't just a one that dinks off the pesky pole. I think that will happen at some point by the end of the season, but this is definitely one that seems slightly fluky.
Clinton, I didn't mean to step on you with the Jesus Sanchez analysis, so I'll just get out of the way. Giancarlo Stanton hit this one darn near 120 miles an hour.
This guy has been hitting laser beams for like 3 seasons now. Every single time he comes to the plate, he looks like a dad swinging against his children in the backyard in a wiffle ball. I mean, just look at this plate approach. Bong, you're out of there. It's unbelievable what this guy's doing.
Guy just punishes baseballs. Fastest home run trot. Again, not including inside the park homers or Brett Phillips hitting one off the catwalk he thought was in play. Took Kevin Kiermaier, June, just 17.15 seconds for this walk-off.
Yeah, I mean, it's a walk-off homer. You want to get home as fast as you can. Yeah.
Take your time.
I don't know. If you want to celebrate as fast as you can, might as well get there as fast as you can.
All right, other end, Jesus Sanchez milking it against the Nationals. Clinton, you're from D.C. You had to watch Jesus Sanchez run around the bases for 33.58 seconds.
Yeah, not a lot of people saw that. You can see from the crowd there, the Nats aren't exactly filling the stands these days. And I remember that series. It was a little bit of a dicey situation, so he did it for a reason. But I got to say quickly, I love the sprint off home run trot when you hit a walk-off. That needs to become a thing in general.
And we are inside of 90 seconds to Home Run Derby starting on ESPN, ESPN2, and the ESPN app. That was Ronald Acuna Jr. Clinton, quickly, what is your favorite Home Run Derby of all time?
It's got to be Bryce in Nats Park when his dad was pitching it to him. That was literally before the Nationals won the World Series in 2019. This happened in 2018. That was the top moment of the franchise in the park, and it's still top 5 now. The only reason it got unseated is because they actually won a World Series. I was there. It was amazing. One of the most fun times I'd ever had at a ballpark. Never mind one in my hometown.
Yeah, that was a fantastic All-Star game. Also, one of the first times that anyone used a painted bat in the Home Run Derby. Bryce Harper there. For me, my favorite Home Run Derby of all time We're going to Cleveland. We're going Pete Alonso versus Vladdy Jr. One of the most exciting home run derbies I have ever seen in my life, because it was not just the fact that these guys went head-to-head in a way that was really exciting. I think we also have to go back into that moment, back to 2019, when Vladdy Jr. Was this enormously hyped baseball prospect coming up, hitting lasers, living up to the moment, and then Pete Alonso coming in and spoiling the people's choice. He was spoiling the people's choice, but it was an incredible, memorable home run derby in Cleveland.
Yeah, I wanted to go nostalgic, and one I remember from when I was like 8 years old, but being in Cleveland for that home run derby, feeling the energy, seeing social media light up at this format, Vladdy Jr. v. Pete Alonso at Progressive Field. I mean, it's going to take something special to top that. Maybe we have it with Alonso going for a three-peat tonight. I also got to sample a slider dog in Cleveland, which is a... Oh, there she is. It's a hot dog with pimento cheese, bacon, and fruit loops on it. Oh, there's me.
Oh, no! I do not want to watch him eating that thing!
Way too many flavors going on.
No!
But I would just recommend the Dodger dog tonight. You'll get them take it from me. Give me a little experience.
I'm getting feelings just watching you eat that. It's so nasty. Oh, yikes. No,
I sampled a lot of ballpark food. That might have been the most curious combination of flavors.
June, very quickly,
drip. We like talking drip on the show. All-star unis for tomorrow night's game. Your thoughts?
I think they're kind of boring. I mean, like, especially with how exciting, for at least for me, City Connect has been. I love a lot of the City Connect uniforms. This is, I mean, they're pretty. They're just, I feel like they could, gray and, you know, gold. Like, I don't know. I think it's Los Angeles. I think we could have done a little bit more.
I don't know, man.
The road ones are okay. The road ones are okay, sorry, but the home ones actually look good. Like, that looks like if the Braves won the World Series, that would be, which they did, that would be their sort of championship uniform. The gray ones are a little too gunmetal. Gray ones are a little too college baseball for me.
Yeah, I don't know if it was like a darker charcoal. Maybe I agree with the aways, but I love the homes. I mean, as much as the Futures game jerseys were criticized, I think the risk taken after the Dodgers didn't take much of a risk with City Connects at all last year.
I mean, the Futures games uniforms were bad.
They were bad. You
can
say it. I didn't want to say it. They're pretty bad. I'm not
going
to be hitting up any friends at MLB for that hookup. All-Star game though, overall for me, it's a thumbs up, and it is 2 thumbs up for the Home Run Derby, which again starts next on ESPN, ESPN2, and the ESPN app. Clinton, you are a champion for stepping away from all the festivities at Dodger Stadium, for joining us. Always great to chat with you and join us on Baseball Tonight Live. Thank you for watching Baseball Tonight Live. And again, the 2022 Home Run Derby from Dodger Stadium coming up next. You can watch it on ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN Deportes, and the ESPN app by signing into your cable provider. And don't forget, after the Derby, the premiere of ESPN Film's Derek Jeter doc, The Captain. June, Clinton, and myself, Phil Murphy, will see you next time. Enjoy the homers.